Hi, everyone. If we could get started, grab a seat. You're going to be up and about in a little bit, so don't worry. We won't pin you to your seats too long. I want to just welcome you all. I'm Casey Anglada Durod, and I see some familiar faces. We're excited to start the 2024 State of the Space Industrial Base Conference. And with that, we're doing a pre-conference so that you could meet some of our NewSpace Ignitor companies. I am going to, tomorrow, hopefully you'll all be at the conference. We'll tell you a little bit more about NewSpace Nexus. We're the best organization ever. And right? Right? Okay. Yeah. So, no, we're doing some great things, really supporting the space industry. Uh, at a company level with our NewSpace Ignitor program. Some of you will be at our launch pad where we provide resources to some of the companies. And then at a national level where we run conferences like this, the State of the Space Industrial Base. We have workshops. We've partnered in Washington and Florida, talking to other states and areas to be able to really get out there and make sure our nation's space industrial base is the best, and we continue leading. With that today, though, our pre-conference, like I said, is to kind of highlight some really cool things going on with our NewSpace Ignitor program. And with that, I am going to first introduce Carter Breckenridge, who will give you just a little snapshot of how the NewSpace Ignitor program works. And then we'll introduce our host, AJ Metcalf, in a second.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. Before we get started on sort of what the Ignitor program is, I know probably most of the people in the audience are familiar with that, but just in case you're not, we're going to dive into that in just a moment. But I did want to introduce myself. I am Carter Breckenridge. I'm the Innovation Program Manager for the Ignitor program, meaning I do manage sort of the day-to-day of our NewSpace Ignitor program. With that, we also have Scott Maitner, who is our VP of Business, and Ariel De Herrera, our VP of Programs. These two also help a lot with the Ignitor, especially Ariel, who not only puts on this whole conference, but also helps put on our Ignitor through the rest of the year. So this is not a one-person show. All of NewSpace does work very hard on this, but I sort of do manage the day-to-day of the Ignitor, so that is what I'm going to talk to you about. What the Ignitor is the NewSpace Ignitor is an incubator-like program, and that means that although we take inspiration from your normal startup incubators and accelerators, and we try to sort of take the best of all of that, put it together into our own unique program. In the NewSpace Ignitor, and you're about to hear this from many of the companies we'll be welcoming up, in the NewSpace Ignitor, our companies will have the chance to talk to marketing experts, various consultants from space business areas for things like customer discovery, maybe introductions into the government, introductions to prime companies. We help our companies with coaching on pitches. We do introductions to local and nationwide economic development departments, and also have them pitch at conferences like this to get in front of all of you. So we will be following this sort of graduation / pitch event up with a wonderful networking session where you'll have the chance to talk one-on-one with many of our NewSpace Ignitor programs. But we've got we've got 7 graduating right now? 8 graduating companies today. 2 of them are here in person to talk to you a little bit about what their experience in the Ignitor was. But if you're interested to hear from the rest of our companies, out on our table at the front, we do have our NewSpace Ignitor yearbook. That has a little paragraph about every company that is currently in the program in it, all the stuff they've accomplished over the past year, and the stuff that they're hoping to accomplish in the future. In the Ignitor program, we also, as I mentioned, bring the companies out for pitch events like this. But we do work with a lot of local organizations such as White Sands Missile Range, White Sands Test Facility, Spaceport America. We talk a lot with Q Station. We are hoping to get in with Catalyst Campus very soon, talk to them some more. Anybody in the local ecosystem that we can to help give our companies the leg up. I myself am ex-government. I used to be with AFRL. Scott used to be with AFRL. Casey was ex-government also. So we've got a lot of inroads here at Kirtland and with sort of the U.S. government, both DoD and DOE nationwide. And we try to help bring our companies in that. So many of you in the audience here today do have backgrounds at the DoD or DOE. And so our companies are excited to pitch to all of you. They're excited to pitch to all the prime companies in the room. They're excited to pitch to anyone that can help them accomplish great things and get off the ground sooner. At NewSpace, we like to say we help our companies accelerate innovation from concept to product to sales. So you're going to see in these pitches, we have companies at all three of those stages. Some are at the concept stage, some are at the product stage, some are at the sales stage. And you'll be able to hear all of that. The networking activity afterward will be designed to help the companies that need someone to help with product or concept or sales, to find those people in our audience today to help them with exactly that. So with that, I am going to bring back up Casey Durad to talk, to introduce our sort of MC for the day of this graduation. But thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate you having here. And I know all of our Igniter companies in the audience are really excited to pitch for you. So thank you very much.
Speaking. So I'm really delighted to have Andrew, AJ, they call him, Metcalf from Air Force Research Lab. He's a Space Enterprise Engagement Lead for Air Force Research Lab. He engages partners from DoD, from the intel community, industry, and academia. And he is the deputy to the deputy. We were talking about that. Of the Tech Executive Officer for Science and Tech, which coordinates all of AFRL's space S&T investment strategy. And so please welcome AJ Metcalf.
Thanks, Casey. As Casey said, work at AFRL. We are the science and technology agent for DAF, supporting both the Air Force and the Space Force. The deputy to the Deputy Technology Executive Officer for Space. So that's a position that looks across AFRL's enterprise to coordinate and execute our space portfolio. So that's not just the Space Vehicles Directorate and Directed Energy that you have down here at Kirtland, but Rocket Lab that we have out in LA, Materials and Manufacturing, Human Performance, Sensors out in Ohio, Information Directorate up in Rome, among others. So we look across that full enterprise and try and coordinate the space aspects that are going on for science and technology. We go from basic research through applied all the way to technology demonstrations where we fly satellites. Let's see. We have 6 mission area leads in our office that look across. Those 6 mission area leads are focused in their mission, but know the touch points across to AFRL. So you as a company need to talk to somebody in SDA, reach out to our SDA mission area lead. They can point you to the right people, even if they're across directorates within AFRL. And I can provide those point of contacts after. You can always reach out to me as well. All right, let's get into the program. I have a script. So the first part, we're going to highlight the graduating elite members. First up is Kall Morris Inc, or KMI. It's an orbital debris removal company based in Marquette, Michigan. KMI has received $6 million in funding, 5 government contracts, commercial contracts, a successful investment round, and opened its first facility. About the Igniter program, co-founder and CEO Troy shared, this active and enabling organization has established a foundation for government relations that would not exist otherwise. From access, ideas, and advising, the Igniter program has been an engaging launch pad we didn't know we were looking for and shown us the future paths we continue to aim towards. Please welcome Cameron Perry and Troy Morris to speak about Kall Morris.
Thank you very much. Close enough. Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron Penny. I am the 17th and newest member of the KMI team with the Kall Morris family. So I'm very excited today to be able to share everything that we're doing and all of the exciting things in 3 minutes or less. So we are founded on the principle of keeping space clear for all. It is no small mission, it is no small aim, but it is the entire focus of our small team to do exactly that. All of our focus and all of our technology is aimed at keeping space clear for everyone, whether that be through LAYLAPS, our dedicated satellite that is armed with all other aspects of our technology as the main bus, and then armed, literally, with the Reach tentacle arms shown behind me. Small model for scale going on a future mission, and I'll get more to that in a moment. Reach is a capture system that is set up to rendezvous, retrieve, and relocate resident space objects, debris, or valuable assets that are in an orbital path that may not be the safest for them to exist in. They may need to be actively deorbited, or they may be recycled by a partner of ours. So Reach, that arm on the front of the Laylap's craft, focuses on that mission. It can handle anything from the size of a basketball up to the James Webb Array. So quite a range of what we can handle with that technology. The other aspect that doesn't get as much attention as Reach is Asteria. It's a leave behind gecko tag that attaches to an object that we're interacting with, and that can deliver a discrete payload to be left behind. There are a myriad of ways that that can interact with a craft. I would love to go over them when we have more than 2 minutes remaining. So definitely talk to me after about Asteria or Reach. Would love to go on for hours about either. Both of those are paired onto that Laylap's craft. And the best analogy that our team enjoys using is that of a highway. All of us have had a commute. When you're going down the highway, if there's a boulder in the middle of the road and you have to swerve every single day and use your fuel, use your resources, use your attention to get out of the way and go around that object, or find a new path and choose a new highway, it wears on your resources. And when that's something in space, we can help make that easier. Move the boulder off the highway, take your valuable vehicle and put it into a different orbital path on our tow truck to save your resources and not need the fuel or the attention of that possible conjunction. To do this, we have a current funding round, our Series A venture funding that is 60% funded through non-dilutive sources. So we're very excited to be moving through that very well. We would enjoy any conversation that you would like to have about that. Definitely talk to Troy after this. Our engineering team just recently returned home after a successful fit and function test with NASA, both in California and in Texas, to support our upcoming mission aboard the ISS through their AstroB program. So with that, we should be handing off all of the final hardware in 2 weeks, with launch planned in September to have a version of these arms, 4 instead of the 8 from the Laylap's craft, aboard the ISS on the AstroB craft to do all of the final fit out with actual plates that are interchangeable to know how this technology is going to final function in that real environment. With partners that we currently have over 50 million in agreements with, we are able to either support single object removal, disposal, deorbiting, or dedicated missions through the singular craft that is, of course, reusable through that Laylap's, or have licensing to where individual components of that, just the Reach hardware, just the Asteria, just the Laylap's craft, can be licensed out to help build out the portfolio of those partners. So if you would like to be a partner, and if you're serious about space, we would love to connect and discuss how we can help keep space clear for all. Thanks.
Thank you, and you get a bonus here. Yes. So what did you get out of the NewSpace Ignitor program?
Changed my life.
One bonus.
I'll let Troy go more.
As our newest employee, I didn't just throw him to the wolves. This was on purpose. But for what KMI got out of the new space program, it was a roadmap. So from my verbose statement that I thank you for making it sound better than I gave it originally, what we got out of this program is a roadmap. Obviously, we bring energy, we bring ideas, we bring expertise and execution. But that gets you nowhere if you don't know where to go with it. And so being here, I think the Roadrunner's from here, and we kind of felt like that energy. So rather than hitting a wall like the Coyote, we actually have tunnels and paths to go through. So, maybe we'll get some animators to make that sound better later, but that's really been what we've gotten from this program is the roadmap of where we're going and how we get there.
Thank you. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
And hold on, you get, NewSpace has a plaque for you and a letter. You would come out there. Is Goodman here yet? Okay, we're gonna jump down. All right, the next company, O Analytics, based in Fairmont, West Virginia. O Analytics offers precision image processing, and data fusion expertise to address the most complex space domain awareness and related challenges, as well as interpretation and classification of big data sets based on common properties. O Analytics won a $1.25 million Phase 2 contract with the United States Space Force. CEO Dr. Jones said, "The value that has been added to our company has been multifaceted, advancing our technology and real connections to government and commercial." O Analytics is not here right now, so I'm going to jump to the next company. RocketStar, formerly Miles Space, is an electric thruster company based in New York City. They have developed and tested an electric thruster powered by water that uses nuclear fusion to enhance thrust. RocketStar has found great value in the networking and igniter program. The networking that the igniter program has allowed. Casey, I'm completely lost. RocketStar has found great value in the networking the Igniter program provides. Brad Berkson, COO, had a very good experience with the investors here. In fact, we have a key investor that is looking at the company right now that we met through the program. That was a quote from friend Brad Berkson. The final company before we get to Goodman is TrustPoint. TrustPoint is a commercial position navigation and timing company based in Washington, D.C. During their time in the Igniter program, TrustPoint launched the first commercially funded, purpose-built PNT microsatellite. The Igniter program has helped TrustPoint find the right contacts in the government to help develop their technology. Quote, "It took us months to get in front of an AFRL chief scientist. By the way, if you're looking for one, right over there in the white shirt in the back, I have his email if you need it." And today at NewSpace's launch pad, they got to spend as much time with the chief scientist over lunch as they did the previous year of phone calls, says Patrick Shannon, their CEO. Okay, and Goodman has arrived in perfect timing. Goodman Technologies, based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is a cutting-edge composite company creating one-of-a-kind composite materials using their patented process. During the Igniter program, Goodman Technologies has had great success in engaging with government customers as well as other potential clients. Dr. Goodman stated, "NewSpace Nexus is really catering to my needs as a founder. There's hardware, equipment, clean rooms, thermal vacuum chambers, and lots of other things that you can use to develop your products. I would absolutely recommend it." Goodman recently won a direct-to-Phase 2 contract with NewSpace Nexus as a subcontractor. Please welcome Mathis Chinick to speak about Goodman Technologies.
Right, just in time manufacturing, that's what we're all about, right? So one of the things about Goodman Technologies that I'd like to say is that Bill can't be here. It's a tight team. We're startup lean and mean. So Bill's now off winning more business for us. And you guys get the pleasure of me instead of Bill. So we'll have to rectify that at some point during the conference. So let me kick off here. So we're here today to spend the next 3 days talking about all things space, how we're going to maintain, scratch that, how we're going to expand the global leadership of the United States in this sector. Every aspect of our lives and our security depends on a space system. So we must continue to enhance the operational effectiveness of how we use space. To do this, we need composite materials that exceed today's standards. We need stronger, lighter, lower cost composites that can provide EMP protection, radiation hardening, heat resistance, conductivity, and lighter, stronger structures that are very low C-swap. Every matrix of components has a weakest part that has to be fortified. This is why Goodman Technologies is the right company. We take that weakest part and we make it better. One of the things that I would say with all this is, you know, when you look at the matrix, Morpheus, Trinity, Neo aside, a strengthened matrix is a necessity. Goodman's patented material is a nanocomposite available in a pristine as well as in a enhanced aligned nanoforest format. We're going to commercialize this technology through a new entity called GT Nano Inc., C Corp, registered in Delaware. So, although newly established, Goodman Technologies has been around for about 7 years. It's had the benefit of the program here at NewSpace, to the benefit of all of the individuals involved with NewSpace that have made it visible and made it more aware of what it has to be investment prepared, as well as commercial market and customer prepared. So, although newly established, it's been around for 7 years. And during that period of time, it's raised over $12 million in SBIRs, STTRs, state grants, and programs with NASA and Sandia Labs. It has had 9 of those go on to phase 2s, 1 go on to phase 3, several in the works to continue that progress, with over about $3 million in backlog today. Bill has been incredibly successful at building his reputation as an honest broker and a person that can deliver within this grant workspace, having built up incredible relationships within all of the DoD, the DOE, NASA, and now putting a toe into the commercial marketplace. And it's this commercial marketplace that we're addressing with GT Nano. We're going after high volumes of wind turbine blades as well as drones. And as an example, GT Nano's basic material will be very cost competitive with fiberglass in the wind turbine blade manufacturing, not only in C-swap, but also in the other features such as conductivity, as well as being extremely abrasive resistant. We have a 3D proven, we have a proven 3D printing and robotic manufacturing process already that we've demonstrated in NASA, which is in discussions with us now and taking the next step forward with that. So we're in early stage site selection in New Mexico, as well as Florida. It was good to have a little competition. And we've been involved with discussions with the economic development departments in both those states. You're nothing without a team. And our team has incredible capability in finance, business development, customer discovery. And I want to say that a good part of that is understanding how you build a team because of your interactions with others that have done it and can help you. And again, this is what the NewSpace Nexus Ignitor program has provided and supported Goodman Technologies in doing. So we have a unique opportunity, a $2.5 million match from NASA on our seed funding for a total of $5 million. And I'd be happy to pleased to speak with any of you about that after I get off the stage.
Thank you.
Yep. So I think
You already touched on it a bit.
I've already asked the question. I tried to figure out how many times I could answer it in presentations.
Well, if you would like to add any more on how NewSpace Nexus helped you during the Igniter program.
Well, let me say, a lot of the accelerators around, and incubators around, focus you on that customer discovery process. Well and good. One of the aspects with that, though, is really understanding who the customers are and who you focus on. And that's where NewSpace Nexus Ignitor program and NewSpace Nexus overall, in terms of reaching out to this industrial base that has been so adept at building awareness around. NewSpace Nexus has been instrumental in helping bring the Goodman Technologies team to the forefront of all of these customers. And so Bill Goodman is a very dynamic person, can get out there and make connections, but you need a team around you to help you broaden that and follow up on it. And I would say that's what NewSpace Nexus has helped provide. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Give him a round of applause and then you get.
Oh. Oh, sure.
Now we're moving to our graduating AAAs. First up is Magma Space. Based in Washington, DC, Magma creates magnetic bearing reaction wheels for satellites that reduce jitter and greatly enhance images. Magma Space CEO Alessandro Stabile says NewSpace Nexus has connected us with the key contacts at AFRL at Kirtland, and through this collaboration, we're advancing our technology within the DoD. Next up is, Magma's not here, correct, Casey? Next up is Serenia Sat from LA. They're developing high-performance edge computing with deep learning algorithms to rapidly deliver actionable information from drone, aircraft, satellite, high-resolution, multispectral, hyperspectral imagery for both government and commercial customers. CEO Tom George says thanks for the participation in the NewSpace Ignitor program. The company was selected to make its pitch to a diverse audience of aerospace companies, government program managers, and investors at the PACA BFI conference. Additionally, they were selected as one of the 5 finalists at the TechCrunch 2023 Aerospace Pitch-Off event in San Francisco. During the program, they won the 8th U.S. Air Force AFWERX SIBR Phase 1, and they were selected for the 2024 Mass Challenge FinTech. And now we're going to the double A's. GDOP LLC from El Paso. They provide location intelligence for planetary and lunar missions. CEO Richard Navas says the NewSpace Ignitor program has been instrumental in helping GDOP navigate the space industry landscape, search for opportunities, and discover potential customers. The fast-paced approach in moving from concept to product to sales makes the Ignitor program unique, and the team at NewSpace Nexus has been specially qualified to help us accelerate this process. And finally, we're moving to 3 minutes apiece NewSpace Ignitor pitches. So we'll hear from the companies. The following 5 companies are the newest to reach the NewSpace Ignitor elite level. First is Aphelion. Aphelion has cracked the code to eco-friendly propulsion without compromising performance. Their non-toxic direct replacement propulsion is cheaper and more efficient than conventional propellants such as hydrazine. Please welcome Miguel Ayala from Aphelion.
Slides. Or how do I drive? Oh. But how do I drive it? Next. Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Miguel Ayala. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aphelion Aerospace. Can you hear me okay? All right, thank you. Thank you. Well, at Aphelion Aerospace, we have finally cracked the code on eco-friendly propulsion without compromising performance. I'll tell you what that means through this presentation. So next, please, next slide. It's gonna take me forever like this. Okay, so the problem that we're trying to solve is high energy propulsion in space. Okay, the most common chemical, the most common propulsion technology for that is hydrazine based, hydrazine with with nitrogen tetroxide, and it's very, very costly, very, very toxic, and the performance is actually average. It's been the standard for decades, but now with demands, ongoing demands, it's just not the best option anymore. So now, for decades, we've been looking for commercial alternatives, more eco-friendly alternatives, but there has been nothing comparable in the market, especially a one-on-one plug-in replacement. Next, please. Until now, we have our hydroprop propulsion modules that are one-to-one, the best one-to-one replacement that are fully reusable replacements for hydrogen peroxide-based propulsion systems. Now, these propulsion systems that we have will save the satellite operators up to 40%. Well, I mean, will help them increase their operation time, the satellite operation time in space by 40%, while reducing the price per unit by 50% and reducing the production cost down by as much as 70%, and especially the handling operations, dealing with the propellants, all of that down by 90%. Next slide, please. Now, the products that we're commercializing with this propulsion technology are these two families of propulsion modules, little CubeSat modules, little propulsion modules for CubeSats, but really what we're after is the larger propulsion system for SPED-class satellites and for orbit transfer vehicles. Basically, we're after the high energy, high delta V maneuvers where we shine most. Next slide, please. All of this is thanks to an initial research that was conducted at Sandia National Labs, not too far from here, with the Department of Energy funding, like 2 decades ago, all in hopes of coming up with a better alternative to hydrogen. And now we adopted this technology, we perfected it, and now we have 2 patents filed. Next slide, please. This is our team. We are veterans of NASA and top aerospace companies. Next slide. And our advisors are top leaders in the industry. We have retired astronauts, retired Air Force generals that are supporting us. They truly believe in what we're doing, and they're helping us commercialize this technology. Next slide, please. So now we have I know we keep hearing that the propulsion industry is very competitive and it's very saturated. Well, that may be true. However, we're not really competing with the electric thrusters that are low thrust that are for CubeSats, or even the monopropellant thrusters that are for slightly larger satellites. We're really competing with nitrous oxide, with the larger thrust capability propulsion systems. Nitrous oxide, RP1 with hydrogen peroxide, and especially hydrazine with nitrogen tetroxide. We're after that specific market set. Oh, next slide, please. We currently have over 2.5 million in government contracts, and we have over 30 million in near-term pending contract opportunities. And in total, we have over $1.5 billion in traction over the next 10 years. This is based on actual RFQs, LOIs, MOUs, letters of support, customer testimonials after conversations with over 90 customers worldwide. Next slide, please. Okay. So right now we're focusing on the in-space propulsion market, chemical in-space propulsion market, estimated to exceed $10 billion by 2030. And eventually we'll expand to other areas like in-space and launch, and then eventually maybe even expand to the entire space propulsion market, which includes other types of propulsion systems. Next slide, please. So these units, we're projecting to sell them for an average price of $1.2 million, but they vary between $0.5 to $4 million, depending on the application. We wouldn't charge the same for a propulsion system that goes on a small satellite compared to one that goes on a moon lander, for example. And then each unit will sell them for compared to hydrogen units for half price, essentially. Next slide, please. So here's our financial projections. I need to update this slide. I think we're looking at, I think our numbers are a year off. With this year, we still have a smaller, lower revenue numbers. However, we are projecting, I would say, over $5 million in revenue over the next 12 months, I would say, and then cash flow positive over the next, by going by this chart, within the next 36 months, and assuming everything goes well, exceeding $100 million in revenue, probably by 2027, 2028. These numbers do seem very optimistic, but the catch here is that as soon as we have space qualification, we estimate, we will project our numbers to shoot up, it's typical in our industry. We know this. We have competitors that are experiencing the same thing. Next slide, please. Okay, up until now, we have invested over $4 million into the company. This is funding coming from ourselves, the founders, and external investors, VCs, angels, business partners. And now we are preparing for a $10 million seed. But while we prepare for that $10 million seed, next slide, please. Right now, we have an amazing opportunity to have our hardware tested in space within the next 12 months with one of our partners, one of our colleagues here in the program. And for that, we need a $1 million bridge. Then that'll give us a 12-month runway. And that is essentially to fund one space flight, and of course, the prototype itself, and to give us runway to close this $10 million seed. We have the seed is softly committed already. We're looking for a lead, and then in the bridge, we have 75% fully committed, meaning we have investors ready to write checks. We just need one investor with an aerospace background to come in and give us $250K. Hopefully, somebody's here with that check today. Anyway, next slide, please. Well, that's all I have for today. This is rocket science. I know I went through this very quickly. If you have any questions, please come by, come find me. Happy to talk to you about anything that I talked about today. Thank you.
Oh. It wasn't on the script.
So just a reminder, the first, Andy, turn me up. Just a reminder, the first two companies you saw and all those other people you heard about were companies that just graduated as our Ignitor Elite companies. Miguel and all the companies you're hearing from now are our new Ignitor Elite companies. So based on how successful the first round was, they might make some good investments.
Thank you.
With that, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. I will bring the microphone around to you. We've just got 2 or 3 minutes for this.
Thank you so much, Luke Davis from Berlin Space Technologies. Really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what differentiates the hydrogen peroxide-based propulsion system you guys have from the one developed by the Aerospace Corporation, which is also hydrogen peroxide-based.
So the one that the Air Force developed is actually ammonia-based. Are you talking about the one called Ascent? That one? Oh, Aerospace Corporation. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that one, Aerospace Corporation. I mean, the propulsion technology that they developed. However, a couple of companies that use hydrogen peroxide are Benchmark Space. They use hydrogen peroxide with RP1, and another company in the U.S. So there are a couple more that are incorporating hydrogen peroxide in their propulsion, Blue Origin and Sierra Space. And I believe they're both using hydrogen peroxide as an oxidizer with RP1 as the fuel, RP1 kerosene. And some companies are starting to use hydrogen peroxide as a monopropellant. And that, as a monopropellant, hydrogen peroxide has been used for decades in Russia on the Soyuz rocket. Now, compared to the most common, I guess, hydrogen peroxide with RP1 kerosene, ours is, for one thing, doesn't use fossil fuel. And for another, more importantly, our fuel efficiency is, I believe, 10 to 15% higher, meaning That's the higher ISP, higher gas mileage essentially, and just a much simpler system. We don't use a catalyst bed, for example. Kerosene and hydrogen peroxide, they're not hypergolic, whereas our fuels are hypergolic. They ignite up in contact, and that makes the reaction very, very responsive, very, very quick. Good to see you.
Your test. There we go.
There you go.
Last time we talked, you gave me some data on the test on some of your nozzles with your fuel. Where are you in the chain in terms of that supply and manufacturing so that you can meet some of these targets that you've got on your financial projection?
Yes. So right now for this, to be able to test our first prototype within the next 12 months, we really don't have enough time to ramp up our team. However, one of our business partners has offered to build us a prototype from beginning to end, and like basically design, build, and the ground test on the ground, and also vacuum test. That way, we can have a prototype ready within like 4 to 6 months, and then have a launch ready. And in terms of the launch schedule, that would be dependent on us being able to secure the rest of the funding that we need to be able to launch with one of our partners here in the program.
And is that bridge financing you're looking for?
Yeah.
Is that partner's provision of this prototyping conditional upon that? Or is this prototyping going to go ahead as you continue to try to form the bridge?
We can handle the down payment ourselves for the prototyping, but we'll need some support. We need this bridge. This is why we basically instead of continuing to raise the $10 million, we decided to just raise $1 million. And this is actually an idea that came from our investors that have already committed for the $10 million round. They decided they wanted to help us out. They wanted to come in earlier so we can test our technology sooner. Thank you.
Miguel, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next Igniter pitch is DornerWorks, an OHV lane for space. They've created the first gigabyte Ethernet switch for space that allows mission-critical data through first. Please welcome Greg Wilds.
Hello, space ecosystem. Greg Wilds from DornerWorks. Appreciate the NewSpace team. We've been very excited to be a new Igniter small business participating in the Igniter program here in 2024 thus far. Do we have slides up?
Working on it, Greg.
Okay. So as you can imagine here, there, I guess I'll do the intro. So based in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and a little bit unique, we are a small business. However, we're cash flow positive from an embedded engineering services that we do. So we're really, our focus as part of the Igniter program is to find customers and strategic partners. And what I'll be talking with you about today is mission critical space networking, and specifically our IP that's FPGA based provides a guaranteed HOV lane for your mission critical data. Next slide, please. So I noted we're based in Michigan. We're active with SBIRs, with NASA, with Space Force recently, as well as Army and Navy. We are all U.S. persons, and we do support classified programs. Next slide. So the pitch today isn't necessarily a pitch for the small business itself, but more a product. So a new product coming to market. We've all been in rush hour traffic, not a great feeling, congested highway. Unfortunately, many of our space networks resemble a highway at rush hour. So you've got this much data and this much bandwidth in your pipe. We've talked with AFRL. They have confirmed high interest in space Ethernet. And that's what I'll talk with you about today. Next slide, please. So what happens when you have that rush hour traffic? And there's an ambulance trying to get through to save a life. You need that ambulance to get from point A to B in a very fast, so low latency amount of time, and with a guaranteed maximum amount of time. The same is true for your mission critical data, whether that's threat warning or a particular class of sensor that's very critical to your operations. So that's what's provided with the DornerWorks. It's called time-sensitive networking. This is an IEEE open standard that enables prioritization of different data types on your bus. So it can be tied to a particular sensor or data tag. And what you can see here, using your imagination, is that HOV lane. You're guaranteeing that mission critical data always has that available. So you have guaranteed timing, so determinism, to get from point A to B in your system. Next up, next slide, please. So Frank Calvelli has said that we need resilient networking for times of conflict. And as I mentioned, AFRL has confirmed high interest in space Ethernet. And so this time-sensitive networking, which is FPGA or chip-based IP that DornerWorks is developing, enables that deterministic Ethernet for your systems. It is integratable by any OEM out there. So we're working with two primes I'll get to in a couple of slides as far as route to market. Very low swap. So this is FPGA IP or soft IP that goes on a single FPGA chip. It can go on commercial chips for like Leo or radiation tolerant chips. And then it's 100% US developed and owned. Next slide, please. So current customers include Army Aviation, Army Ground, and NASA. So DornerWorks Ethernet IP is on the NASA Orion or the Artemis missions. We're doing an upgrade to this TSN or time-sensitive networking to provide that for space applications. Next slide, please. I think for time, so this is it on Army Aviation Systems. Next slide. For time purposes. So there are competitors out there. However, most of those are either don't have a radiation tolerant or radiation hardened version, or are ASIC based and proprietary. The TSN is IEEE or open standards based, so helps with MOSA priorities and the like, and can be adaptable as those TSN specs evolve over time. Next slide, please. So as I noted, there's existing customers, and then in a pitch here, what's the revenue stream? So there's sales of the IP as a development license, production license if you take it as is, and then engineering services for customization for your particular system, space vehicle, satellite, et cetera. Next slide. So commercialization potential here is dual use. We have the terrestrial applications that are already, it's being adopted. We're porting it now to the rad tolerant AMD Versal chip. And we are a premier partner with both AMD as well as Microchip. These are multi-billion-dollar chip companies that are going to co-market our IP for us. Next slide, please. So the transition plan, excited to share with you that just this month, we've been awarded a Space Force direct to phase 2 SBIR. And we are working with, have letters of support from both GDMS as well as Lockheed Martin Space, work with them as existing customers. And so we're going to be looking to transition this TSN FPGA-based IP for space systems, working with them as initial customers. Next slide. So again, this is enabling technology that enables your system to have mission critical data that's more resilient, higher speeds, lower swap. And what DornerWorks is looking for is customers as well as strategic partners. Look forward to talking with you. Thanks for your time today.
All righty, we've got time for just one or two questions. Does anybody have any questions for Greg Wilds of DornerWorks? Well, all right. Looks like you gave a very thorough presentation then.
Thank you.
Next Igniter pitch is from Hoonify. Hoonify allows you to have a supercomputer on your desk. Their Turbo or Turb operating system software changes any Intel and NVIDIA machine to allow parallel computing, turning your computer into a supercomputer. Please welcome Randy Eslin.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here. My name is Randy Aslin. I am the Director of Strategy and Critical Markets for Hoonify. I think during our pitch practice, we're given 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm just warning you, Carter, I'm probably going to take up the whole 7 minutes. And so good to be here. You're going to see that my slides today are more geared towards us in terms of our market and our growth and customer acquisition. We would typically be pitching some investor slides as well, but happy to announce that there'll be a press release on Wednesday that we just closed out our seed round of funding. And so we're very, very pleased with that. And so that sets us up and gives us a platform that we need for the further development of our product and for our customer base. So yeah, thank you. So Hoonify provides accessible and fast answers to big problems. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think we're got to go back by one. One more? Yep. There we go. And how do we do that? So we take the capabilities of a $45 million supercomputer and we bring it to the masses. We take those capabilities and we slim it down in size and in cost. And what we look for are folks that are doing consequential computing that need faster answers, better answers, and they need accessibility to supercomputing. So far within our small but meaningful customer base, we show a 200% performance increase. But this next point is the one that we really like a lot, a 30% staff efficiency gain. So think about that. If compute or modeling and simulation or AI or ML is critical to driving your revenue, or it's critical to meeting contract deadlines that give you a kicker if you beat the deadlines that you have in your contract headlines, think about, or your contract terms, think about the ability to drive 30% more revenue and not adding a minute of work to your current HR, your current staff over the course of a week. That becomes super meaningful in the C-suite when you can get that much more work done by leveraging a system that's easy, it's plug and play, and until recently was not accessible. Next slide, please. So just to kind of lay the groundwork, supercomputing, as we know supercomputing at Los Alamos Labs or Sandia National Labs, involves a processor called a RISC-based processor, a reduced instruction set processor. And these processors are on servers or blades. So if you were to look at a supercomputer at Sandia National Labs, you would see a data center, but really that's one large brain. And so when folks are doing compute, they're taking their applications and their processes and they're loading them, they're spreading them amongst the brain in that data center to get faster results. So accessibility is typically a big problem in those environments. In fact, in those environments, folks are waiting in queue to get their jobs done and to get access to resources. What we did at Hoonify was we took the concept of supercomputing, because some of our founders came from Cray supercomputing, and we applied it to NVIDIA GPUs and to Intel x86 chips. Meaning we can go into an on-premise environment or you can leverage our cloud and we can take your current infrastructure, Dell machines, Gateway machines, HP, IBM, put in a head node, and we can transition your entire infrastructure into a supercomputing infrastructure where all of the processors, okay, in each server, and all of the little mini brains in those processors are now being used in real time to process the applications that you guys are running for things like ModSim, for things like AI and things like ML. Next slide, please. So this is what makes our application really powerful. Our application is truly a software piece that acts as an operating system that we call Turbos. We have a private cloud in which folks subscribe to our private cloud and they can run their supercomputing applications over our private cloud, but we can go again on premise. And by going on premise, we can provide a solution that leverages the current CapEx in your spend. Next slide, please. So the problems that we solve for our customers, number one, the first problem we solve for customers that are doing consequential computing is providing access to supercomputing infrastructure. So if folks are doing testing before running their ModSim or their digital twin functionality, that's super expensive to do that testing. If you're in Amazon or you're in Azure or in Google, you're paying a metered rate for that testing while you're working on it. Okay, and so that kind of thing makes it to what we have found is that staff members in those computing departments are often hesitant to overly spend on some of their cloud-based systems. By us going on site and setting up your infrastructure on site, we allow you to leverage the on-site infrastructure in a way that hasn't been able to be done until Hoonify has come around, until we have deployed our systems. System complexity is another issue that folks that are trying to leverage supercomputing or HPC run into. So today's HPC model is one in which you have a cluster of servers running Intel machines, and in any particular server, let's go back to that slide, thanks. In any particular server, you have a processor, and that processor has several brains, okay? And so those brains are doing processing on various applications. And so that processor would have, boy, the word escapes me right now. No, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like it's a Tuesday that's a Monday after the holiday. What's the term? The node? Oh no, we've got our processor, and the processor has several cores. Thank you. How easy is that? Okay, thanks. So the way HPC typically works today is you're running an application, and let's say that application is intended to run in parallel. Okay, so that application would typically be on one particular node using its processors and using all of its cores in one particular server. And today, that would be the breadth and width of your HPC. In a supercomputing environment, you're taking all of the various servers or nodes and those processors and those cores, and you're combining the entire physicality of all of those separate servers, okay, their processors and their cores to be able to process. We do exactly the same thing on site with Intel-based processors. Now, if you're going to set up an HPC system, it's expensive. You need engineering, you have architecture, it takes time. The budget is typically pretty high. For us to be able to go into an infrastructure and set up turbos is very simple. Most of our applications are set up in a single day. If you're a small office or if you're a smaller organization, we can be in at 8. Typically by 4 or 5 in the afternoon, the systems have been set up and you're able to supercompute and run your codes. Codes like MCNP for radiation physics, codes for fluid dynamics, various codes for various compute. Again, we're a technology that is favored in the CFO's office because you can leverage the CapEx, the spend that you've already made by leveraging our Turbos operating system. It's a value proposition that you rarely see, where a CFO says, listen, if we can supercompute with what we've already spent, that's the type of technology that we want to spend on. And so typically, very, very welcome in the C-suite. Next slide. In 2023, the total HPC market was $37 billion. 40% were on-premise servers. Cloud computing represented 20% of that $37 billion. Again, we play in both arenas. We play in both cloud and we play in on-premise. Next slide. By 2026, the HPC market will be a $50 billion market. Outside of government and space, we see biotech and entertainment as being core markets for us. Next slide. Our founders all come out of Sandia National Labs. Two of our technical founders have about 40 years combined with Cray Computing. Next slide, please. Okay, what about supercomputing in space? The ability for machine learning and AI to be able to run extremely quickly on actually common chips that can be purchased that do not have a supply chain problem is a huge advantage. And so some of the advantages that we have right now is that we have worked with the DOE, we work with the DOD. The majority of the folks that are employed by Hoonify are all cleared. They have active clearances. Those that do not have active clearances, those clearances can be turned on. We are working on some edge devices that utilize a rugged technology for the warfighter so that the warfighter can leverage supercompute out in the war theater, out in the field. And part of the investment that we received will be to refine our operating system to have a front end on it that gets away from line command code and moves more into a Windows type of environment. Next slide, please. So this is a true startup. When the founders left Sandia National Labs, they took no salaries for a year. They worked on their technology. Then they started slowly bringing in seed funding that, as I announced, resulted in the seed funding that we have now. So the company is about 3 years old. We've had a 3 times revenue increase since the time that the company was founded. We intend to be revenue positive by 2025. Our lead customers today are government institutions, lab, DOD, and DOE, and then we do have some private market companies as well. We do not have a fully commercialized effort, and so most of our work today has been word of mouth and from our Rolodex. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's an example of a company using our technology, North Star. These guys do modeling and simulation in the radioisotope space. When we met with North Star, they had codes that could run in parallel in supercomputing, but they did not have the infrastructure. So we deployed turbos on site. We worked so quickly within their infrastructure that they actually thought that the systems were broken and not working. The quote that you see from Josh Peterson of North Star is an actual quote. They ran so fast, they thought that our systems were shut down and were broken. We had a 20 times faster performance in that environment. We took work that typically took them 4 days, and that work was being processed in 6 hours. Next slide, please. Deliver Fund is a group that fights human trafficking. When we met Deliver Fund, they were having problems with their AI. Their results were slow. Their systems were slow. We built them a GPU-based desktop system. So it was very turnkey. We built it. We loaded turbos for them. We tuned it for their AI. We saw their initial analyst load was reduced by 90%. We doubled their performance. And if you think about what they do, these guys are scraping websites 24 hours a day. They're looking at pictures. They're looking at video. They leverage AI to point to perpetrators, and then they work with local law enforcement. Next slide, please. So we feel very fortunate that the Hoonify technology is an enabling technology. A lot of the technologies that we're hearing about, these fabulous space-oriented technologies that are going to drum out so many different new products and different services, that it's very exciting to be in this room and to see the evolution of this. We happen to be more of a neutral technology, where folks in space and in the military see a need for our operating system because of the need for compute. But what we are also finding is that in the general marketplace, more and more of the applications are driving a need for more compute. There has not been an upgrade in operating systems, like a major upgrade in operating systems in about 30 years. Windows 95 would have been that last upgrade. What we are seeing is that more and more applications are being written to run in parallel, and they're going to require more GPU and more CPU, and they're going to require more true parallel use. And so we think there's a possibility that if we keep on that path, working with government, DOD, DOE, space, and then in the general marketplace, that Turbos might one day be one of those operating systems that we see packaged with computers as you buy your higher end computers. Thank you.
All right, I'm afraid you used up all your time, but during the networking session, you will have opportunities to interact with Hoonify and ask them all the questions you want there. They are also based in Albuquerque, so they're right around the corner if you ever need more.
Next pitch is from Modal. They create statistical or non-statistical AI models that have been successfully tested in cancer and disease detection, and they are working to expand into space. Please welcome Susan Kaplan.
Absolutely non-statistical. Good afternoon. I'm Susan Kaplan from Modal Technology Corporation. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about the two largest problems facing the semiconductor industry and all of its verticals. First of all is the size, cost, and complexity of statistically training AI models. And secondly, the concern about the solution accuracy, because every day you hear, open up the black box. Oh no, another hallucination. Solving these problems is $1 billion to $1 trillion opportunity, and that is what Modal Technology Corporation is tackling with its software that we call Alex. Whoops, I forgot about that. Next, please. And next, please. There we go. The good news is the problems are not with the neural networks, but with the statistical algorithms that are used for training. Next, please. According to DARPA, Alex is a third wave technology that takes training to another level using non-statistical methodology. Next, please. Alex is a foundational tool and uses proven mathematical solution of set theory rather than brute force to train. Alex can compress the model while retaining or even improving accuracy, and it finds the global minimum in a single run and is highly parallel in both CPUs and GPUs, so it scales very easily. And as a bonus of the training, it identifies and prioritizes the variables that prove the solution for you. Thus, the black box is open. Of course, improving training has direct relationships to improving inferencing. Next, please. Our software is robust, stable, and runs in simulation and is waiting for the hardware connection. To ensure our system on a chip gets to market quickly and at maximum capability, Modal has formed a joint venture called Risk AI. And that company already has signed MOUs with key RISC-V IP partners to build the product. Next, please. Our model here shows the separation of concerns. MTC was designed to be a licensing company, and it houses Alex, our IP. We have 37 patents in hardware and software and over 2 generations, and future R&D for our next generation's pathway. It is revenue positive. Modal Ventures is a wholly owned subsidiary of Modal, and it houses the licenses and business development. Risk AI is a joint venture that was formed last year. The goal is to produce the systems on a chip, and MTC is the majority owner of Risk AI. Risk AI already has signed a TLA agreement with Modal that gives them a perpetual license. Next, please. Alex is proven in several ways, but our poster child is with our partnership with McGill University Health Research Institute in oncology. We were able to both stratify and prioritize the most significant biomarkers in a single run, which validated their goal of wanting to build a point-of-care test kit, and that would more quickly, more quickly and cost-effectively identify patients who best respond to treatments. They proved it was possible. We formed a partnership with Miguel and we're moving forward on this project. Our work is published in Informatics and Medicine Unlocked, and the paper includes a comparison study using traditional training methodology. Next, please. RISC-V technology opened up the access game for a lot of companies. There are no longer gatekeepers, and smaller companies like ours and others that you've heard here today get to market with customized solutions a lot faster and for a lot less money. Our system will be a RISC-V general purpose and backward compatible chip running both ALEX and legacy software, and we also have the capability then to retrain and optimize some of those older models. Next, please. As part of our new Igniter program, we've formed many relationships and partnerships like our partner Hoonify, where we discovered that combining technologies was like combining peanut butter and chocolate, really good stuff. And we are working closely with several early adopters to identifying use cases. Next, please. Risk AI was co-founded by Nate Hayes, the founder and CEO and the inventor of ALEX at Modal, myself and Tom Hudson, who's a serial entrepreneur and a former IBMer, Dr. Peter Kogi, inventor of the Kogi adder, and IBM and IEEE fellow, is our chief science advisor, and we have a core group of seasoned engineers back home in Minnesota working arduously. Risk is currently in a seed round. We're raising $5 million. We're about halfway there right now with private investments, and we're negotiating an offer for an A round for tranche. This money will get us through an MPW run so that we actually have test chips for our early adopters to start using on real life cases. We've been around for, next one, please. Next one, there we go. You can see that we've been around for a while, about 8 or 9 years, and doing the research, validating the math that we're using, and solving the problems. And now we're ready to start preparing to disrupt and improve the market. Next one, please. We are looking for both visionary leaders and partners and investors to be part of an industry shift. Next one. If this has piqued your interest at all, let's talk. We have a great demo. Thank you.
All right, we've got time for 1 or 2 quick questions if anyone has one. All right, looks again like a very thorough presentation. Again, all these companies will be available for networking right after this. We have one last company.
Final company is Exos Aerospace, is a manufacturer of reusable test rockets as well as composite fuel tanks. The fuel tanks landed on the moon on board Odysseus earlier this year. Please welcome John Quinn.
All right. Excuse the gear, my luggage didn't make it, although we finally did. All right, and who are my rocket guys out there? And I'm gonna figure that out by asking a quick question. Who else sees a rocket nozzle in these tables? Okay, I love it. I'm John Quinn, CEO and co-founder of Exos Aerospace. My background is from Navy submarines, both fast attacks and Tridents, onto the reaches of space. Not quite. Next slide, please. So we are one of 3 companies in the United States that currently has a license for reusable rockets. There's about a dozen companies that actually have launch licenses today. But you probably know who the three are, or at least two of them that do reusable, right? SpaceX, they got like $3 billion from the government, and then Blue Origin, and then us. But instead of 15,000 employees, our total production is under 50. During COVID, we had to make a shift. After 4 flights of our first rocket over a period of 14 months, we realized one thing, that a RUD is a bad event. Anyone know what a RUD is? Come on, give it to me. Rapid unplanned disassembly, yes. So we found a material fatigue problem that we corrected by using carbon composites. And Scorpius Space Launch Company helped us build our vehicle and our tanks as one integral unit, making both the tanks and the rocket almost 30% lighter. Well, that served a great need for a hypersonic reusable launch vehicle for the US Air Force. They brought us in under a phase 2 contract, and we built the vehicle that you see in the center there. So while we trimmed 30% of what we could do by using an outside provider, because we're vertically integrated on everything else, we said, well, we want to get control of that back. So we bought part of the company, and we negotiated a deal that if we could get them on the moon, on a NASA contract, on a SpaceX flight, that we would earn the right to buy the rest of the company. So that's what we have here today, is we have that right to continue to buy the rest of the company. Next slide, please. On February 22nd, as was mentioned, the Odysseus lunar lander landed on the moon with the Scorpius LOX and methane tanks on board. Huge benefits, obviously, but they are now the only TRL-9 commercially available Type 5 linerless tanks that 10 years ago NASA said, oh, it can't be done. And that's how old their patent is. Next slide, please. So we're raising $10 million to complete the acquisition of Scorpius Space Launch, a couple million to put our new rocket that we built for the US Air Force, but they changed contracting vehicles. So we've been 3 years and we haven't flown it yet. We've hovered it 10 feet off the ground and had it just sit there and then slowly shut down and land back on the ground, doing a short vertical takeoff, vertical landing. However, we haven't flown it for the Air Force yet, so we're gonna go commercial. And we're gonna do a couple of flights. That'll qualify us for NASA IDIQ contract for payloads. So we're looking for just a little bit of what was contracted to Musk here. Next slide, please. So obviously this IP gave us Type 5 linerless tanks that are about half the cost. And why is that? One, they don't have a liner. There are no dissimilar materials in the tanks, and they're out of autoclave and they don't have to be heated. So most tanks, you have to cure them. These cure at room temperature within a couple of days. Also, we have demonstrated on our first rocket that we can reuse a rocket at 1% reuse cost. And then our little team of about 10 people can turn that rocket around in a day and go fly it again. Now, it does take a couple of days because we have to go back through the FAA review for pre-flight, and then we can go to flight. So we can essentially launch 3 times a week. And there's about 250 payloads out there under the Mach TB 2.0 that Defense says they need to be able to launch weekly. We've got the capability. We can go there. And then the last thing, we have done DoD contracts, and we're currently doing a rotating detonating rocket engine contract for the US Air Force. Next slide, please. About a $500 million market. We believe we can capture about 157 million of that over the next 5 years. We've got a couple of projects now. With the acquisition of Scorpius, they've got about $4 million of backlog on the books. That brings them to profitability. And 4 launches from NASA in a year, which they're proposing quarterly, doing a couple of launches. That puts Exos Aerospace in the black as well, bringing us to profitability within the year. Next slide, please. Financials, you can get the full deck if you want to speak to me later. We can pass that on. Next slide, please. And onto our team. So very, very background. Our president is actually a 4th generation oil man. He's a pastor, broker dealer for stocks. That's how I learned to fire my boss. He taught me that stuff. And then he has also gone through exits, selling a company to CBS. Myself, I told you, submarines to reaching for space. Next slide, please. Russ Blink, our Chief Technology Officer, has built hundreds of rocket engines, all sorts of different fuels, dozens of flying vehicles, and led a team for over 20 years doing that. Neil Milburn, our Chief Operating Officer, very good for us for the position we're in because he has a background in turnarounds. So spinning companies that need some help, like we found with Scorpius. Next slide, please. And with that, we're looking to build space resiliency through dual use capability, both in commercial and for defense, and would love to speak to anyone out there over the next few days to talk about this in more detail, and I'll be in a suit instead of my travel gear. Any questions? And Rob can attest to the fact that I do usually wear suits. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, so when SpaceX launches Starship, it's about 90 million per launch, right? And every time they have a RUD, they blow their $90 million. So they're going on their fourth attempt right now, right? So every time you have a RUD, what's your cost? And then the other question is, how many RUDs can you have before you're economically non-viable? And what do you suggest to minimize the number of RUDs?
Well, we don't have anywhere near the capability of anything SpaceX has put out because we're suborbital, so more like the Blue Origin platform. Our first 3 launches of our Block 3 vehicle, we had a bad IMU. So we had 3 flight aborts, off nominal flights essentially, because we didn't reach space. And we recovered the vehicle on those first 3 flights. On the 4th flight, we found something new. We had a material fatigue issue in the aluminum. Of course, very thin aluminum to make that vehicle do what it needs to do. Total cost on that was about 1.5 million for that vehicle. Okay, so if we were to do an expendable launch, do some really super cool things, we're in that couple $1 million range. So that's total cost for 4 flights. And we're down at about $3,000 a pound to put something in space, to be able to test it before you put it on orbit and make another piece of space junk. And we carry about 125 kilograms to 100 kilometers.
Hey, John, great presentation there. Good move on going on the stage. I stayed in the back. Should have gone over there. Anyway, how did you come up with your sum? It seems slightly small. I feel like there's a lot more market that you could capture.
With what?
In your sum, in your
Yeah.
serviceable attainable market.
So 157 million is based on our size now. While we could go a lot further, a lot faster with a strategic partner, I've only got MOUs and LOIs for those strategics right now. But for example, if we started providing space tanks for the moon, because for transportation, it's about 20% better than hydrazine. And guess what? It's non-toxic. It's really great fuel to make here on Earth. It doesn't pollute. So I think that's the thing of the future. If we engage that, you can 10x those numbers. Because we bring in somebody who tomorrow can make 100, 1,000, 10,000 of those tanks. And those are our rocket bodies as well.
That's right, yeah.
Great question. Thank you.
Alrighty, John, thank you so much. That's all we have time for.
All right, next we're going to host a networking session. So I'm going to turn it over to Ariel De Herrera, the Vice President of Programs for NewSpace, to lead you through it.
Can everyone hear me okay? All right, first I want to really thank Dr. AJ Metcalf for doing a great job in moderating this session. Quick round of applause. I also want to give a big thank you and another round of applause to our amazing NewSpace Ignitor companies. All right, so this next session, bear with me, it's going to be a tailored networking session. So the first step behind this is you see different kind of poster boards spread out around the room. I'm going to read those different kind of categories and groups As a company or whatever you're asking for, if you're interested within this group, you will go to this section after I kind of dismiss everyone. So the first one we have is in-space power and propulsion, which is right there. We have ISAM, which is right back here. Workforce and economic development over there. Space technologies over there. Space launch over here. And space habitation over here. So once you break into those groups, everyone should have received a small card in their badge. Let's see. All right. So there's two questions on there. You have an ask and an offer. Every company is asking for something, whether it's funding, whether it's partnerships, whether it's connections. So what I want you to think about is, what is your ask? You also have something to offer, whether it's a product, whether it's a service. So also think about that. The goal, we're going to call it a little game, is to find a match. So what you want to do is you want to match your ask to someone else's offer. Once you find that match, collect their business card or connect through LinkedIn. I know there's a lot of kind of virtual business cards. Connect through there. The first 5 to make 3 connections or 3 matches, come see us on the stage. We have a prize for you. But you guys have about until the reception starts at 5 to kind of do this, to kind of network, get that one-on-one time with everyone that's in the room starting now. So you guys are good to disperse.